Jay here from Stretford, Paddock. This is the paper talk. You can see where I am. I'm in the studio. You know what to do by now. Get involved in all the comments in the chat. We are live and we're going to be discussing all things Manchester United related. As always, there's plenty of United stories to get our teeth into. Jadon Sancho being an obvious one. We've also got a little bit more on Ten Hag's sort of approach when it comes to training, how strict he is, what's going on there, a little bit of a takeover update, plus some Rasmus Hojlund stats that may get you even more excited for seeing him, hopefully, against Brighton. So make sure you are giving us a like, a share, and a subscribe if you've not done already. Loads of people in the chat already. Chakoya Trot, Phil Berry, Big Bud, AJ Williams, Santa Notch, says morning, Jadon Sancho. Nice. Matt Wicks, Brian Casey, good to see all you guys in there as always. Right, let's talk about a bit of positivity, yeah? Should we get off on the right foot? Because we've had a lot of doom and gloom, haven't we, at Manchester United Football Club. Pretty much for the last sort of, well, you could argue for the last 10 years, but for the last month or so, it's not been great, has it? Even our wins have felt a bit underwhelming. There was the win against Forest where, okay, it was great to come back from being 2-0 down, but you're like, really? We're having to sort of hold on against Forest when they're down to 10 men, not great. The Wolves game wasn't great. Spurs and Arsenal, obviously we lost, so that's not good. Then you've got the off-the-field stuff, which seems to be never-ending. It's like we are Statement FC at the minute, as everyone seems to be saying on social media. So, yeah, not the best of times. We've had better times, haven't we, as Reds? So we'll try and start with a little bit of positivity. Amrabat Boost, it says here. See this in the Manchester Evening News. There's two absolute beautiful baldies. Says United hope to have Sofian Amrabat available to face Brighton on Saturday. We've got this from the Evening News, but it's from the Telegraph. It says Amrabat hadn't signed in time to face Arsenal before the international break, but did join up with the Morocco squad, only to withdraw with a precautionary issue. I don't mind that. I quite like that, to be honest with you. When players who are with the country are withdrawn because they're sort of making sure they're going to be fit. They don't want to risk anything. I'm a big fan of that when it comes to Manchester United players, because there's nothing more annoying than when a player goes away on international duty, they're not 100%, and then they make an injury worse. I think fair enough if you go and get injured while you play. No one can predict that. But if you're not 100%, I don't think you should be playing for your country anyway. I think you should take a step back. And if it is precautionary one, it makes lots of sense to me. I remember a few years ago, well, quite a few years ago, I think it was Phil Jones. Remember when Phil Jones used to play for us and actually people rated him? It did happen. He went away with England, and Jose Mourinho was at a press conference when I was reporting. Jose Mourinho was upset because England apparently had given Phil Jones some injections so he could play the game for England. And Jose Mourinho was fuming about that, saying if he's got to have injections, he's not fit enough to play, he shouldn't be playing. And he'd come back to United and he wasn't fit. So Jose wasn't happy about that one. And I got his point. It says here he has been back at Carrington dealing with the issue, but is hoped to be fit for a debut at Old Trafford. I'm not going to lie to you, don't know a lot about Sofian Amrabat. I saw a little bit of him for Morocco, obviously with that wonderful World Cup run. They went on to the semi-finals. And I saw him in the Europa League conference final against West Ham when he's playing Fiorentina. I don't remember a lot about that, I'm not going to lie to you. But from what I've read, from what I've seen, he seems like just the type of midfielder we need. I'll be excited. I'll be at Old Trafford on Saturday. I'm sure you guys will be either there or watching it. It'll be exciting, or you'll be watching the watch-along as well, obviously. It'll be interesting and exciting to see how he develops, and hopefully he can be the type of midfielder we need. We've missed this type of midfielder, haven't we? Someone who can be a little bit more defensive-minded. I think if you look at most of our recent midfield signings, other than Casemiro, of course, you look at the likes of Eriksen, you look at Mason Mount. These are players that are not really your sort of number sixes, are they? This guy is, and he can hopefully play there and do a very good job for Manchester United. Let me know what you think about this kid. Get involved in the comments and the chat. Rafash TV says, morning, Jay. Tom Harrison, I love that, says, Jay, we have 3 beautiful baldies on the screen now. Perfect. Phil Berry says, can't wait to see him play. Renato Tello says, at least he wanted to come, unlike some others. I think a lot of players we've signed recently have been keen to come to Manchester United. Maybe I'm being a little bit naive there, when players often say that, don't they? I always want to come here. But it does feel like Rasmus Hojlund was keen to come. Sofian Amrabat it looked like Sofyan Amrabat did everything he could to make that move happen, even when he was linked with other clubs. Fiorentina were basically saying, this guy's he's not playing for us, he's doing his own thing in training, he's waiting for this move to Manchester United and we're just going to leave him to it. It did feel like he was very, very keen to come to Manchester United. And that's what I want to see. I want to see players that are coming here because they want to come to one of the biggest clubs in the world. They want to play for Erik ten Hag. They're not just coming here just because they're going to get the biggest pay packet. I know players at United get a lot of money. I'm not disputing that or questioning it. But you want players that are eager to play for United. It does feel under Erik ten Hag we have got a little bit more of that, especially with some of our recent signings in the summer, including Mason Mount, of course. Mason Mount had another year left at his Chelsea deal, been at Chelsea since he was a kid. He could have stayed there. Don't forget, Mason Mount stays at Chelsea for another year. He goes on a free in the summer, and he can probably get himself a few more quid because a club's going to come in and not have to pay a transfer fee. But he was keen to come to Manchester United straight away. Obviously, United have paid Chelsea the money to get him, but I like that. I like the fact you've got players that want to come. Ditto with Andre Onana, from what we gather, he was keen to come and play for a manager he knew as well in Erik ten Hag. So hopefully that'll help us a little bit, because I think part of the problem, not the only problem, we've had a lot of problems at Manchester United, is we've had players, if you look at Angel Di Maria as a prime example, just didn't want to be here, did not want to come here, came here because the transfer fee was right between the clubs, the wages were right for them, didn't settle, didn't like it, didn't fit in, and ended up moving on. And we've done that a few times, and I think that's something that has to be addressed. I think we need to look at players that want to play for Manchester United, have the right personalities to play for Manchester United, and when they get here, we look after him, we give him that sort of care, if you will, make sure that they're all looked after. Steve always talks about this, and he makes a great point. A lot of the big clubs do it. When you get to a club, I think we had Carl Anker, I think, on who mentioned it as well, who's been on the channel. When you get to a club as a new signing, you need someone who's going to show you around, who's going to show you where you know, the area where you're going to be living, the sort of anything you might need in terms of advice, in terms of just the basic stuff. Like, obviously, I'm not saying all these players sort of need to know the name of the nearest electrician or what time the number 42 bus leaves the stop or whatever, but they need a little bit of ingratiating with the neighbourhood and finding out where certain things they might need to use are. And I think United in the past, remember, look at Wilfried Zaha, he just signed, he was stuck in Bramall, he didn't know anyone, he didn't have anyone to hang around with. Once training's finished, he was bored, and a lot of the time he was driving back to London to go and hang around with his mates there, which isn't good, isn't great for a player to be doing that every day. I think sometimes you need to be looked after a little bit, and apparently Bruno Fernandes is one of those that helps players do that. Obviously, Matt might be one of his roles as captain, but I think the club are getting a grip of that kind of thing, which is something we should have done years ago. I'll move on. Let's talk about the main story. Jadon Sancho. It feels like it's never ending, doesn't it, this? It's only been about a week and a half, but it feels a lot longer. Is it 2 weeks, has it been? 2 weeks we've had this, the Sancho saga. It feels a lot longer, doesn't it? Dan Sheldon, who writes for The Athletic, and he's been all over this story. He did a really good piece about it with Laurie Whitwell the other day. He says, Jadon Sancho is training away from United first team, we know that. After refusing to apologise to Erik ten Hag, Sancho will be using the club's academy facilities to stay fit until a resolution is found. Now, this story, I could have picked it from anywhere. It's in The Athletic. It's been reported elsewhere as well, that basically Jadon Sancho isn't backing down. He isn't saying sorry. He isn't saying, I presume he doesn't think he's done anything wrong. If you don't say sorry, it usually means you don't think you've got anything to apologise for. So there is this element to the story. I don't see how this gets resolved until he says sorry. But then you've got the old issue of, well, he's only saying sorry so he can get back into the team. I said this yesterday and I don't want to keep going on about it, but it does feel like Jadon Sancho is done at Manchester United. It really does. I just don't see a happy ending to this one. It feels that with the way that it's gone, the fact that you've had this sort of playing out on social media, the fact that as well you've had the manager having these talks and they haven't resolved the issue, because now you've got a player not training with the first team. You've had that statement. I just can't see it. I can't see Jadon Sancho staying at Manchester United. That's the point I'm getting to. Glenn F says, can't wait to see Amrabat soon, and Hojlund hopefully at Regulon against Brighton, as I think we'll need them against Brighton. Bruno, a real captain at last, first since Keane, in my honest opinion. Up the Reds, up the Paddock. Glazers out. Yes, Glazers out. On that front, we'll be talking to the 1958 later on today. They have got... they're starting this sort of campaign where you can get involved with those guys. You can join this website. I've signed up for it, where you can sort of have your say on the next step in terms of protest, in terms of action when it comes to getting rid of the Glazers. So we'll be talking to Steve from the 1958 a little bit later on. Rishad Hossein says, why did Erik Ten Hag say it to the media in the first place? There is that argument. I've seen this being put forward that, to go to the most basic argument you can ever have, he started it. Some people are saying he started it because he said something to the press after the Arsenal game. He didn't need to do that. The counter argument to that is, he was asked a question about Jadon Sancho. He was honest about Jadon Sancho. He wanted to get maybe a reaction from Jadon Sancho in terms of him applying himself more in training. He got the opposite to a point now where Jadon Sancho isn't training with the first team. I know Jadon Sancho hasn't chosen not to train with the first team, but the point I'm getting is because of Jadon Sancho's reaction, it's now led to him not training with the first team, which is the polar opposite of what you wanted to happen. So it is a bit of a mess. You might argue that Erik Ten Hag's at fault. I personally don't think he is. And we're going to get to Erik Ten Hag and his training now. Well, there's a story doing the rounds. I've seen it in the Mirror. James Garner gave an interview and he spoke about how strict Erik Ten Hag is when it comes to training. He said Ten Hag is a very approachable guy, but he's very strict. I think he told BBC Sport. He takes no one bending the rules. He says it how it is and will punish people if they have done the wrong things. My talk with him was easy. I asked him plain and simple whether I was going to be in the squad or if he saw me playing a part. I felt the conversation did not go as well as I wanted and I made the decision to move. I like that. I like that there's honesty. I don't mind James Garner as well feeling like he's not going to get minutes and wanting to move on. You always want players to stay at Manchester United, good young players, and I think James Garner was a very good, or is a very good young player. And in an ideal world, he'd have stayed at Manchester United and made a success of it. But if he's not going to get minutes, if he's not going to get game time, I think he has to be honest with himself. And if he says, right, okay, and I'm at a stage in my career, because James Garner isn't a kid in terms of, I know I call him a kid, but I basically call everyone kid. Anyone who's younger than me gets called a kid. He's not a teenager, he's 22. So he's at a stage in his career where if you don't play regularly, you're going to stagnate and you're going to maybe even get worse because you're not getting that practice, you're not getting the games that you need, you're not playing against the elite players, you're not playing alongside the elite players either, you're just playing in the reses or the under-23s or whatever, or the whatever team you're playing for. Maybe if he goes out on loan, drops down back to the Championship like he did with Nottingham Forest. That's not where he needed to be. He needed to be getting minutes. Everton is a big club with a rich history. Obviously, they came in for him. They paid the fee that was required. He's gone there, and after a bit of a sticky start, I don't think he was playing a lot under Frank Lampard. He's now been getting some minutes under Sean Dyche. I know Everton have got issues in terms of where they are in the league and the results and stuff this season, but I think James Garner's done pretty well. So I wish James Garner all the best. I said that when he left, and it's just very interesting to see him talking about how strict Erik Ten Hag is. Abhinav Verma says, you're old enough to be James Garner's dad, Jay. Facts. Yeah, I am. Thanks for pointing that out. I'm 21 years older than him, I think. Just want to talk about Erik Ten Hag as well when it comes to this idea of, or the fact that he is being strict. Because when we talk about Manchester United, when we look at Manchester United and some of the issues we've had over the past few years, and especially since Sir Alex Ferguson retired, not all the issues, but a lot of the issues come down to a bit of a lack of discipline. And we saw this with certain players. We saw it, how it infuriated Jose Mourinho, and it kind of, he went one way where he was strict, but maybe over strict, certainly with the way he dealt with the press and players in terms of the press as well. That didn't really go down well. It didn't really work. And in the end, the players, you just felt at times they weren't really performing for him for whatever reason. Then came in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and he had a completely different approach. It was more the arm around the shoulder than the ticking off, more the carrot than the stick. But then there was this issue about discipline, and we saw it. We saw the sort of, there was a feeling and the impression that the players were sort of doing what they wanted at times and getting away with it, and it just didn't work out under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And you feel like maybe there was a little bit of a lack of discipline. Now you've brought someone in like Erik Ten Hag, who is strict. He is strict. He expects certain standards at this club, standards that have been missing and been slipping. Roy Keane said it many a time when he's been asked about it, and I think he's right. If you look at the standards at Manchester United, they have been slipping ever since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. Now you've got a manager who's come in and he expects players to be disciplined. He expects them to stick to his regime. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're Cristiano Ronaldo. If you speak out about the manager like he did on that Piers Morgan interview, you're gone. And rightly so. You can't have someone doing that. You can't have a player undermining you. If you're Jadon Sancho and you're not performing in training, then you're going to get called out. And if you call out the manager on social media, then he's going to take action against it. He took action with Marcus Rashford, who was late, I think, for a team meeting. Marcus Rashford, the top goal scorer at the club, he was late for a team meeting. He was dropped from the team. A game against Wolves, I think it was, where we needed him. Now he comes off the bench and he scores, he reacts, and he admits he was late and he deserved to be punished. He gets it. He knew the rules and he broke them. he had a reason for doing it, but that's not the point. The point is, if you're late, you drop from the team, and he responded in a positive way. Now, you've got a manager that is trying to get this club and this team moving forward. And one of the issues we've had is about discipline. It is about, I don't want to say discipline, I don't just mean players just doing whatever they want all the time. I mean, maybe not just showing the sort of attitude and desire that you need to play for Manchester United. We're going to win trophies and we're going to challenge for the very top honours. Now, we've got a manager that's doing this, and he's doing it whether you are Alejandro Garnacho or whether you are Cristiano Ronaldo. The rules are there for you all to see, and if you don't abide by them, then you're going to get punished, or he's going to take action against you. And we might not like it at times, but this is what we need at Manchester United. I think this is what we need at Manchester United. We need someone who can come in, who can be strict, who can be disciplined, and who can get this team moving forward. And I think Erik ten Hag's got the right attitude and the right ideas when it comes to doing that. You may disagree. Get involved in the comments and the chat. Let me know what you think. Do you think he's being too harsh on Jadon Sancho? Do you think Erik ten Hag is overly a disciplinarian? I want to know what you guys think. Hit that like button as well. Over 1,000 people watching. We haven't even got to 200 likes. Let's get liking this video. Let's talk about something a little bit better, a little bit more cheerful. Rasmus Hojlund. You can see here in the Daily Mirror, Premier League's top 10 speedsters as Rasmus Hojlund makes rapid start on Man United debut. So this is these are the players that have clocked the fastest times, I think, or the fastest pace in Premier League games this season. So you can see here, clocking up a pace of 35.45 kilometres per hour on his debut away at Arsenal. Hojlund has quite literally made a lightning fast start to life in the Premier League. Is that quite literally? Is that quite literally lightning fast? I don't think it is. I don't think lightning is quite literally 35.45 kilometres per hour. So no, he's not quite literally made a lightning fast start to life in the Premier League. He's made a fast start and he's doing well. I thought his cameo against Arsenal was a very positive one, but I don't think he's literally lightning fast. I might be being pedantic there, but let me know what you think in the comments. Let's have a look at these then. These are the fastest sort of appearances, the fastest times people have appeared in the Premier League. So it's out of 10, the top 10. Number 6 is Alejandro Garnacho against Spurs. He did a 35.1 kilometre per hour run. So that's the top speed he hit. Very, very good there. You can see there, Rasmus Hojlund was number 5. The £72 million man will improve the speed of Manchester United attack if he continues to run at 35.45 kilometres per hour like he did against Arsenal. Great stuff, but it wasn't lightning quick. Then you can see there the player that is renowned for his speed and his strength and very little else other than baby oil. Adama Traore, very good at number 4 against Fulham. Who else have we got? Let's have a look at the top sort of 3. Anthony Gordon against against Villa. He clocked 35.63. Anthony Gordon again against City was number 2 when he got 35.67 against Kyle Walker. And then number 1, Dominic Solanke, who reached the speed of 36.10 against Arsenal. So there's some interesting facts for you. I use the term interesting loosely. Andrew Miller, who's been a member of the academy for 10 months, says Garnacho and Hojlund, 2 of the fastest players in the league. That's the real quiz. That's right, innit? Never mind your Premier League trophies and your Champions Leagues and all that. Who's the quickest? 2 of the fastest. We've got 2 of them. That's the real quiz. Well done. I love an office reference. Jamie Moynihan says, "Morning, Jay. How are we feeling about our defence facing Ferguson?" I'm a little bit nervous about it, but I think we'll have enough. I think I don't know actually. I'm lying now because didn't I say my prediction it'd be a 1-1 draw? Go and check out the preview and you'll see my thoughts on the Brighton game anyway. Just finally, let's talk about the takeover. There's a couple of stories that have been doing the rounds here. You can see we've got it here from the Daily Mirror. This is late last night. He said Man United bidders disagree, not biggers disagree. That doesn't make any sense. Bidders disagree over Glazer's stance. It says here, whilst Jim Ratcliffe still believes the Glazer family wants to sell Manchester United, his rival bidder, Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani, is understood to be less convinced. These stories are doing the rounds. There's some people saying that Sir Jim's going to be patient, Sheikh Jassim isn't. There's others saying they're both going to be patient. One thing that is certain, we still haven't had the takeover happen yet. That is what we do know. You can argue about we do or don't know. We don't know whether this takeover is going to happen. It's not been certain. There's reports saying that it will, reports saying that it won't. We'll have to wait and see. But I do know that there's conflicting reports here, and at the moment. The Glazers are still here, so we need to do something about that. There's going to be more protests. I'm going to be talking to the 1958 later on today about those protests and what's planned and how you, yes, you, can get involved. Thanks to everyone who got involved in the comments and the chat. Joe Donnelly says, morning, Jay, my favourite Paddock guy. I see you took the links out the wristwatch. Yes, I did. Well spotted. It was a bit loose. I had to take some links out because I've lost weight. Right, I'll leave it there. I've been Jay Motty. This has been the Paper Talk. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.